Rightio, well, thanks to NZB Standardbreds, Woodland Stud, and I'm going to give the guys from Southernbred, Southern Red a good plug as well because I love what they are doing. They've got a great moniker. I can't remember what. If you don't buy one, you've got to race one. I think is roughly how it goes. It is terrific. I am joined by Katrina Price from Price Bloodstock. I presume it's got an NZ next to it, but firstly, Katrina, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. So, yeah, nice to be here.
Does it have an NZ or does it just go as Price Bloodstock?
Well, we're just a bit small time, so we've only got a Facebook page, so it's just Price Bloodstock.
There's a galloping trainer over here called Mick Price, and he also has Price Bloodstock, and so he might be riding on your coattails. It might be the other way around for once. He might be riding on your coattails after the 2 weeks you've had because it ended up being an extended period. Firstly, just a little bit about your farm and what you guys do. Like, how big is your farm? Like, how your draft of mares?
So all told, I guess we've got probably 10 mares. So we've added to it a bit. We've actually just diversified over this last winter and added a couple of trotting mares into it. So up until then, it had been exclusively pacing mares. And look, we are very small time.
Very small time. People aren't aware, Katrina actually, she topped the sale in Christchurch with lot number 315, which sold for 310,000, and then about 40 lots later, she blew that one out of the water with lot number 361, which sold for $320,000 on the day. All the work you guys do, and I'm sure your partner as well is very proud, but can you explain the emotion after, while 362 was going through the sale ring? Can you explain that emotion, perhaps, after what was probably a whirlwind hour?
I think by the time he went through the sale, I was actually pretty relaxed. Yeah, I was very nervous getting up until lot 315. I think particularly with what had happened with the week's delay and kind of these COVID cases coming up, thinking, we knew we had a really nice draft, and I sort of thought, well, if ever we were going to do, something really well, it was going to be this year. And then just worrying that perhaps we wouldn't have a sale or when it was going to be. So there were a lot of nerves heading up to 315. When he sold, then, kind of it was the feeling that anything was a bonus. But, then when 361 did what he did, it was just, it was pretty incredible. It was very
I'm fortunate over here. I do a trots vision, and especially through COVID, you probably got to see a lot more of what trainers do and watching trainers' reactions because there's no crowd for them to hide around. So a lot of people, what do you do when you get nervous? Do you have a nervous twitch, or do you go off and hide, or is there something that Katrina Price does that she didn't realise she'd done before the weekend?
I think a look of stricken terror across my face, probably.
You what?
A look of stricken terror, I think, when I look at the photos.
We've got sales coming up over here, and this is one of the things I wanted to highlight with the nutrient sale coming up and the rest. I'm just going to bring up this horse. I'm trying to find the page. I've got him dog tagged. There's for sure, but Chicago Bear for a start. Now this horse is a Bettor's Delight out of a Christian Cullen mare, so that sells itself automatically. So people sit back and say, well, that's great pricing and all the rest. But this horse, Chicago Bear, is actually a full to Chicago Bull, a full to Perfect Stride, and a half to Rockabilly Blues. So the mare has had 3 foals, 3 to race, 3 winners. Of those, 1 is a multiple Group 1 winning horse, arguably at one stage the best horse in Australia and New Zealand, Australasia. Definitely he would have been very close to it. Perfect Stride's a Derby winner and just a phenomenal horse. You don't really have to sell those ones. People pick the catalogue up and they would all be putting the same little tags that I've put on mine next to those horses. Yet when you caught my attention was before the boys at Southern Red even came there, you put a tweet out straight after Perfect Stride won the Cobram Cup that you've got this lot in there. Don't take this the wrong way, but you're not the young age that people turn around and take social media by storm, but you had enough fortitude to turn around and say, I'm going to put that horse up straight away so people are aware that we've got this full brother to these 2 horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they might have that tweet. There was that particular weekend because then going to our other lot 361 Magnificent Storm, he was doing his thing over in Perth, so it looked like the perfect opportunity to say, well, hey, we've got two very, very close relations in our draft here, so I guess trying to put it out there in Australia, knowing that, of course, the Aussies couldn't get across, so I think just had to be very proactive about, taking our story and, and our horses, to you guys, whichever means possible, and that was social media.
I put it up on a show I do with Toby McKinnon and Daniel Hibbert, and we generally just have a little bit of fun, but we put it up as a Woodlands Winner of the Week, Perfect Stride, and flowed into that colt. But you then shared that back as well. So you are very savvy with it. I think a lot of people don't get how social media works. If someone gives you a praise and you sit back and just rest on your laurels, it doesn't go any further. But by being able to share things and push things along, it actually makes things grow a lot more, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if my teenage children would say that I was very savvy, but I'm learning.
But getting better and the rest. What was the feedback around Chicago Bear prior to the sale?
Well, look, he was an absolute rock star, and he has been basically since birth. You could have sold him in August, September, October, November, December, and he was basically just the same version, just got bigger and stronger as he went through. So, most people, when they sort of arrived, even at the very sort of early pre-tours and things like that, the reaction was, wow, and sort of, well, you could do with him, really.
Absolutely. The other guy, I haven't got a picture of him. I have to just put up a picture of Chicago Bear, and what you said was right. Like, we actually had a little bit of fun on our show. You didn't really need to sell him. He just sold himself, because you just looked at him and you're just like, wow. And it was a still photo before you put your videos up, and I'm going to talk to you about those in a sec. But even before you put your videos up, like, he was just like, wow, this is a horse you'd love to have in your backyard.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it. Actually, yesterday, NZB Standardbred posted a photo of him and also the highest priced Savabeel colt from the Karaka sale this year, with the tagline "Spot the Difference." And it just showed how far the Standardbred breed has come. When you looked at, the Chicago Bear and the Savabeel colt side by side, there was very, very little between them.
Wow, that's awesome, because NZB, the NZB Standardbreds, they are a thoroughbred selling business. They're a bloodstock agent, basically. So the fact that they've even taken the time and they realise the investment in harness racing and what it's doing for those horses, that's terrific in itself. That is awesome. This next one, though, 361, what do we call him? Mendinka. He was, I suppose, on pedigree, he looked like being a nice... Did you think he would top Chicago Bear, though, like in your wildest dreams? I know Magnificent Storm, he's taken West Australia by storm, and he will continue to get better and better. There's no worries there at all. But were you expecting that sort of a return for him?
No, probably not initially. Look, the pedigree page of his is just, it's beautiful. If you're an art collector, he's sort of the equivalent of, buying a Rembrandt or something like that, really. Just that whole Me family that they just, whatever branch it is, they just keep producing those top horses. So we knew that he had that behind him. We actually bought him as a weanling. So first of all, we managed to secure his dam, Heart of Dixie, who we felt very, very privileged to be able to get her. And then an opportunity came to purchase him. So we did that. And he was a lovely, correct colt when he first arrived. But he perhaps lacked a wee bit of that wow factor, and perhaps not quite as developed as the likes of Chicago Bear. And I think, fair to say, he was probably in Chicago Bear's shadow sort of for most of the prep. But I guess it was probably on the SBSR tour. We sort of have our big tour, and there were like 150 people here. And he kind of really stamped himself that night, and sort of, and that was, I think, when everybody sort of stood up and took notice of him. So then heading into the sales, there was a lot of interest in him. And we actually were having a bet with Nathan Williamson, local trainer who does a lot of our driving and that, and he'd bet us early on that he thought that Mandinka would sell for more than what Chicago Bear would. So we ended up losing that bet.
Oh, I don't think you'll have to worry. I'm sure you've got a little bit of shrapnel left over at the at the end of it. Who did you purchase him off as a weanling?
So Mrs. Hoggard, from Auckland.
Yeah. Yeah, well, should be still very proud. That's for sure. I would imagine. I think anyone would be associated with these sort of pricing of these two colts going through. They'd be wrapped in. I asked you there before off air how many mares you have, and you have. I think you said 10 mares as a band. How long has the breeding empire been part of Price Bloodstock?
Well, John's father and his family have always had standardbred, so there's kind of been sort of a foundation sort of family. And then John and I I guess our first mare that we bred was probably just over 20 years ago. And then I guess more seriously, it's progressed really from there. I guess about 10 years ago we had our first sort of foray into yearling sales. We over 2 years we took 3 horses to the sales, one made reserve, and we brought home the other 2. And initially I was training and got those up and running and sold them, as going race horses after they'd won a race. But that made us, I guess, take stock, and we realised that, hey, we don't want to be doing that, playing in that end of the market. So I guess we upgraded the mares that we bought, diversified a bit there, and just really looked at how we were doing things, and tried to improve. So we had a few years away where we didn't take anything, and then we got lucky. Chicago Bull came along, and then of course Perfect Stride was the first horse that we presented at the sales, in this new block, and he topped the sale. And then the next year we took along another couple, and they made really nice prices as well. And then last year we had the top price for the Pace and Colts in Christchurch as well, with a son of Democrat Party who was a mare who won a Group 1 for us. And then this year. So, it has evolved over the last few years.
But 10 years, like a lot of people will be sitting back watching this now, and I'm sure they're anxious, especially if they've still got horses going to the nutrient sale in April. There's APG sales next week in Sydney, and they'll be anxious about it. But 10 years, you've had one horse make reserve, and you took the other 2 home, and fortunately enough, we're able to sell them. But you've rejigged your business around to the envy of a lot of breeders. I'll say New Zealand wide. I'm tipping Australia wide. I'm tipping nearly worldwide. You've got 10 mares, and you've had 2 of them smash the ceiling as far as the yearling sales go in New Zealand.
Yeah. In between time, I would say that there has been a lot of investment on our part. And look, we got lucky.
Yeah.
And then we were lucky, Democrat Party. We bought her mother at a dispersal sale, and she was. Democrat Party was the first foal that we bred out of her, and she went on, broke New Zealand record Group 1s, and then multiple placed, in Group 1s, and it was just a lovely mare. So you need a bit of luck, but we've worked really, really hard, and as I said, we've invested, heavily.
How did you get the mother of Chicago Bear? How did you come to get her? Like you said, Chicago Bull come along. Did you actually breed him?
We bred Chicago Bull. So we bought Chicago Blues at the yearling sales. And we had gone there for a number of years and bought, well-bred fillies and just to try and diversify our band and upgrade it. So she was one that we'd purchased through the yearling sales. And we her, and he was the first foal that we bred out of her.
Which is just ridiculously good for a breeding point of view. But then, to complement that, to have Perfect Stride come along as well, and then the other horse as well, which I haven't got the catalogue open, but that makes it, that just keeps complementing it, doesn't it, and growing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a lot of planning going behind it. Your yearling prep pedigree, how did you said there before that you were a trainer, but did you learn from someone as far as getting horses ready for yearling sales, or is it just something that you guys have evolved as you've gone along?
Well, both my husband and I have an equestrian background. So my family, so my grandfather had show ponies for years and years. So I grew up showing and then show jumping. And my father also had rodeo connections and thoroughbred as well. And had the standardbreds, and he rode ponies and show jumpers and that. So we had that background. And then I just yeah, so it's been sort of a lot of experience. I think training helps because you're sort of, I mean, the whole thing about a yearling preparation is that you're actually trying to prepare a horse to be a racehorse eventually. So I kind of look at it from that point of view that I'm trying to prepare an athlete. And I do a lot of study. I, constantly watch the red yearling sales and Australian yearling sales, anything that I can get my hands on, and I guess probably a bit of a magpie, just stealing ideas here, there, and everywhere.
That's what I'm doing. I'm stealing ideas off you intentionally and trying to help people as well get an understanding of what actually does go on behind the scenes. I spoke to Clayton Tonkin a couple of years ago, and he has a few little rules, and one is certain he buys off certain people, like he buys off. And if he hasn't bought a horse off you, don't take this the wrong way, but if it's got to be a proven sort of track record that he likes to follow, that if they can. So I would imagine there's a lot of people like a Mark Purd and Crandall Getty, those guys that actually follow that same philosophy, I suppose, if you like about it. That's got to be nice for you, knowing that these guys all front up when you've got these horses lined up, because you've actually had a really, really good sale, not just a sensational sale.
And I think that is the key, that you've got to get your foot in the door for a start. But then once you've got your foot in the door, then you've got to keep working to basically push your way through. And actually, Cran, that was one of the comments that he said. So he bought the Democrat Party colt last year, and loved the way that he broke in, and was thrilled with the way that he's developing and everything else. So he did say that it did give confidence to come back and be a repeat customer.
Can I be cheeky? Do you? Some people have them fit, some people have them soft. Is there? I would imagine, because you're an equestrian background, I think I nearly know the answer. But is there a style or a type that you try to present once you get them to the sales?
Well, I like them to look like an athlete.
Yep.
Obviously, you can't take them race horse condition, but I do like the buyer to be able to see the horse that is there. So I don't like them too big. And I just think, that toned. I mean, they do get daily exercise, and I like that. I like them to be toned. And as I said, I don't want them to be hidden under, an extra 100 pounds or anything like that. So I want people to be able to see the horse that they are.
Generally, equestrian people like a bit of carriage too. So I'd imagine you probably work on that, the way they walk, the way they carry themselves, and the way they present when people are around. I might be wrong, but that's generally what the equestrian field, I think, where they leave a lot of trotting people behind. They don't let them just slummick along behind them. They make a walk and present.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're determined a bit by, how the horse naturally walks and that. But, I do like them to walk with purpose.
Katrina, I won't hold you much longer, but I just want other people to be aware. So I'm talking to Katrina Price about preparing horses and the way that you guys go about them. And people can say what they like. The record that you guys have set this year at the Christchurch sale, you've blown everyone out of the water as far as your figures, because I said one for 310,000 and one for 320,000. I think people might say they were a little bit dear, but they possibly was with the tax on top, I would imagine, because these figures are from Cambrai, so I presume they would be the actual sale price plus taxes and that on afterwards. You also prepared 4 lots for Topeka Lodge on the day, or over the weekend as well, including lot 200. Sorry.
Just 3 for Topeka. Actually, they had one withdrawal very early on. Yeah.
I love it when people prove Cam wrong. He actually has rung me while we're doing this interview, so don't worry. He can be a serial pest. I like the guy, but so 3 lots, including 289 that sold for $240,000.
Correct.
And you also prepared for Bodine breeding, and lot 153 and lot 140 sold for $120,000. Is that both those two sold for $120,000 each?
No, so just one was for $120,000, so that was the top price for a trotting lot on day one. Yeah.
Which is just just amazing.
Yeah, it is. And look, I mean, to have a draft, look, we're very, very privileged that we got to prepare those horses for those two. They're both very iconic breeders, Bodine and Topeka, and unfortunately it wasn't through nice circumstances that we got those extra horses. So David Kennedy from Bodine Breeding, he's been having sort of a health battle over the last 12 months, so we took 2 of his. He still prepared 5 for himself, just to sort of ease things for him. And then 2 of Pika Lodge, which is run sort of by a group of siblings, and you've probably heard of Father Dan Cummings, passed away last year, so and he'd sort of done a lot of the hands-on work for the yearling. So that's how we got those ones. So look, it wasn't particularly through nice circumstances, but we benefited from having these beautiful horses. And that's the key to yearling preparation. Quality horses prepare themselves, whereas it's a lot harder if you don't have that quality to start with.
How are you? Firstly, I love that, and I think one of those horses, one of the Tupeka horses, the one that was named after Father, was actually sold on his birthday, I believe, as well. It was his actual birthday, the day, which was ironic because of COVID. It got put back, and so then it sold on his birthday.
It was like it was all preordained, really. Yeah, so I mean, it was quite.
How do you describe the emotions? We all sat here and watched Auckland Sunday. There was a big lead up to it. Everyone was there, and it was amazing. And I know the chatter from people texting me saying, "Are you watching this? Are you looking at this?" and all the rest. You guys obviously be sitting back at Christchurch. I presume you weren't over there. I would imagine it would have been near on impossible. But
so we're like 7.5 hours from Christchurch. So we had driven up on Sunday, and I was sort of watching my phone and seeing all the prices coming through, and it was like, whoa, this is going really well. Hopefully we can keep this momentum up, and it's going to be a great sale. So we got up there and sort of arrived, and of course you arrive at the sales grounds and you're sort of frantically getting all these horses settled, and I didn't look at my phone from then on in. And I washed all the 4 horses. I just finished getting them all cleaned up and hooves done, and they were all away, and I was making up feeds, and someone walked around and said the sale's off. So my stomach just fell. It was just absolutely gutting. So we sort of had that night, and of course everybody was then racing around because it was basically the southern ones that were the only ones there because we lived so far away. So there were basically 75 horses there that suddenly either had to be accommodated for the week or come home. So it was just this mad sort of rush around and trying to work out what everybody was going to do. We chose to bring our horses home. So it was a very long truck drive home. So just, and of course all the uncertainty, not knowing if the sale would go ahead the next week. And then, was the momentum going to be stopped? And, all that. So, and then that week was pretty stressful, I'd have to say.
One thing you did do, again, you got horses that are going to sell automatically and all the rest. You went back home, but you posted a post that the boys were out in the paddock feeling $1 million. You're showing people that they were still there, they're ready to go. You didn't sit on your hands and rest on your laurels, did you?
Well, I just figured, right, we've got a negative and we need to make this into a positive. And one of the things, we live a long way away, but Southland has amazing grass. And that was one of the reasons that we wanted to get home, was to get these boys out in their paddocks again. And so, just showing, I guess, the environment and the fact that their constitutions were absolutely amazing. They arrived home, ate, and just out in the paddock galloping around and just, and in fact that week they just grew. I had to deliver all the cover straps out just to get them to put on. So so I guess it was about trying to turn the negative into a positive.
But then there was still another negative twist that a lot of people won't know, because I know Cam Bray was the auctioneer, and I think he told me he cleared 2 of his first round of calls. I think he had about 20 to auction, and only 2 of those actually sold. It looked like that there was no money there, like we say about this momentum that was on the Saturday, and then you put back a week, and then all of a sudden at the initial start of that sale was a little bit deflating, I would imagine, for everyone involved.
Well, it was really weird because Monday we had the trotting sale, so Monday's exclusively for trotters, and that sale went really well. So all the figures were up, and then Tuesday, so the 2 days of pacing, and so the Tuesday, and it was just horrible. It was just sickening. So everybody was walking around, with heads down and just panicking, basically. And then there were some, of what you'd sort of think were the nice slots sort of went through the ring, and then it sort of seemed to lift, and I guess there was a bit of hope. And then when Tuapeka Dan went through and he made 240, suddenly I think people thought, right, there is still money. But of course, we didn't know whether there'd been a sort of a bit of hype and spin put on it that people had been able to syndicate the horses really quickly from Auckland, so there was going to be more money there, but then it sort of didn't look like there was. And yeah, so I guess that was the worry, really. That, perhaps people had actually gone home and thought, well, actually, do I need another horse? Is COVID going to hit and the business was shut down? So, yeah, I mean, naturally people were worrying.
Absolutely. I just can't understand the emotions, and I'm sure everyone was in the same boat. There'll be a lot of people that were expecting a figure for certain horses and they didn't get to sell them and the likes, and then you would have been expecting probably really good money for a couple, and you're sitting there at the start, as you said, on the Tuesday. I got my days mixed up, but on the Tuesday, and you're thinking, oh, is there any money left here at all? And should we be doing another 8-hour trip back home? So I would imagine just that whole week, the emotions just must have been hard to get a grasp on, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'd say a roller coaster, but there wasn't too much highs at the start, so we were all, I guess, at the bottom really, but luckily it lifted. So yeah, that was pretty tough going actually. And I think too, what I found was we sort of came home, we had that week here, and it was just mentally to lift yourself. It literally felt like there was no sales, so it was to kind of lift yourself and right, we've got to get going again and do this. Yeah.
I love your positivity, and it's easy. People say, it's easy because you've had such a great sale, but I still love your positivity and the way you go about it. What happens now? Have we got more for next year?
Next year's actually going to be a pretty quiet year, I'd have to say. Yeah, so unfortunately, that particular year, so the likes of Chicago Blues didn't get involved, Democrat Party didn't get involved, Carter Dixie wasn't involved. So, and then Rockabilly Blues, who's the half to the likes of Chicago Bull, she did have a foal, but it got to be put down. So, hey, that's this is breeding, isn't it? You go from the highs, and so we'll have, I think there's going to always be Mickey Colt out of the Pride Party, so she's actually been a nice producer. And then we'll have a Father Patrick filly and hopefully a Captain Treacherous filly as well. So, yeah, I think it'll be somebody else's turn next year.
But I just love the fact that you continue going and you know what you've got as well, and I enjoy it. I love what Southern Red are doing. I love the fact that you are a group and all the rest. And you said to me, I asked if you celebrated before we started recording it, and you said it's tradition. You all get together as part of a group. It must make it a lot more fun being part of a group of studs, if you like, in the one area, and having that, I suppose, camaraderie, especially like what this last period has been like.
Yeah, look, it's incredible what we've done as far as like what we've been able to achieve for the group and and the individual ones. But I think as well as that, it is really nice to share it with other people and people that actually understand what it's like. That you can go from hero to zero very quickly and then back up again. So everybody's there and supporting each other. So we're really fortunate to have it, and maybe a bit of a lesson for other groups in racing is just actually how much you can achieve together. And the thing is that there's no sort of negative spin-off, that nobody's been worse off within the group by everybody working together. In fact, it's the opposite. So So and I think that too, like I said, we talk about sort of quality and that sort of stuff, is that we're all pushing each other and sharing ideas, and and then there's sort of friendly competition and things like that. So we've got to shout everybody oysters now because we got the top price. So and that's tradition. Yep.
When am I coming over? They keep saying I'm coming over. Now you're getting oysters. I want to come over. Cam Bray, the boys, Johnny Stephen and Mark Smith, they've invited me over. I actually rang Mark. A lot of people, they had no idea about social media, and we done a couple of, I had to get them both onto Facebook and both on the Messenger, which was a work of art in itself. And then there was, I'll give them their dues, actually. We had a technical issue for some reason. My camera couldn't work. So the second interview we did, the boys did a great job because I couldn't get the camera to work. So they went blind. They couldn't see me at all, and they did a really, really good job. But Mark had rang me the morning the sale got announced, and I hadn't got around to giving him a call back. And when I rang him back, basically he was just watching the news, and he said it's back on. And the joy in he was just so elated that the sale was back on. I think that would then, like, the whole group would pick up, because you get a bloke like him who would share. I'd imagine he'd share that with everyone, not just me on the other end of the phone back in Australia.
Yeah, no, and to be fair to poor Mark, he was the one that had to, share the news that it was off on that, the week ago. So, yeah, that wasn't a particularly nice, set of messages to be passing on to everybody. So, yeah.
No, he did a good job. I think well done to you. Thank you very much to everyone involved with Southern Red. If I can get there next year, I definitely will be on the bus trip, but who knows what can happen. But I appreciate everything you've done. Katrina, I appreciate everything, the time that you've given me as well. I really appreciate it, because I know, like, it's late in the afternoon or evening on a Friday there, so I definitely appreciate that as well. I think you guys are exceptional giving your time up.
Oh, no, look, hey, likewise too. Like, we've been just so impressed with what you've done for Southern Red. So, yeah, no, it's been awesome. And as you said, we've developed a whole new set of skills as a group, doing these sort of interviews and getting that access over to Australia. So it's been great. So thank you.
One thing, I just very, very quickly, your videos of your horses, again, horses that would sell themselves, you went the extra yard with your videos. It's something I want preparers to be aware of this year, that you had them walking on a flat section. You did a lot of video footage. You did a lot of close-up behind them as they were walking and the likes. Did you get a good response from that? Because it really stood out to me when I was watching a lot of the videos, I suppose the length that you guys went to make it a little bit different. And again, you had horses that pretty much sold themselves, but you were still prepared to try that extra yard.
You were like, that was one thing that NZB had really pushed, was the need for good videos, particularly for Australia. And it's sort of hard with the videos that you don't actually really ever get feedback from the buyers. And so you actually sort of never know if people are actually watching them or what. So, but, Andrew Fitzgerald, he organised all those, and, he did a great job.
Yeah. I can tell, I didn't buy, but I loved them. I watched, I probably watched 60, 70 of them. I didn't watch every one of them. I don't have the time to, but the ones I was talking about and that, I made a point of watching them. So I think they're key, but I just like the way that everyone went about it, and well done to Andrew as well. And I will give a shout out to Cambrai and NZB Standardbred. They asked me to do some promotions. More than happy to. Wasn't sure how it was going to go, and yet the content that they keep providing for me, I must say well done to them. And hopefully, as I said, hopefully next year I'm over there. They've got that many people telling me how great it is. You're teasing me saying you eat oysters and that now the week after everything happens. So I am looking forward to getting there. Katrina, thank you so much for giving me some time.
No, lovely. Thank you very much, Paul.